spokesperson.
Add to that, the prosecution asked for 62 trial days, and the defense asked for 30. 30 trial days. Sorry, 62 trial dates for the prosecution and 30 for the defense. But of course, this could change during trial. No? It doesn't necessarily mean that we will do 62 days, for example, because um, if the court would allow us to present, for example, 2 witnesses per day, then it will be shorter. So it will depend on how it will actually unfold during the trial.
Yung 62 trial dates, yun po, is to present your evidence and witnesses.
That's correct.
Okay po. Today po yung deadline po sa both camps to file their comments on the stipulation process. May we know what is the gist?
Yes, about that issue, maybe if I could just clarify, because it was asked a while ago. So, during the pre-trial conference, there was initially an attempt to discuss each and every...
Guys, pakilike po ng ating live yan para po mas marami pong makanood at ma-recommend po ni YouTube.
The clerk of court allowed the parties to just file their written comments, counter proposals to each other's proposals for stipulation. And
Pakilike po.
that happened. Otherwise, baka hanggang ngayon hindi pa kami nakapag-start ng marking. So, that's one thing. As to the submissions of the parties, let's just wait for that. Both parties will comply with the deadline within the day.
Just to clarify, may kalaki po bang motion? Yun pong comment nyo po sa stipulation process. Any motion?
No, it's just compliance to the clerk of court's directive to file our comments or any counter stipulations to their own proposals for stipulations.
Okay, sorry. Last na lang po. Just for soundbite purposes po, 62 trial dates ang pong nilatag ng prosecution panel.
For cinematic mode, all you need is a single image and a prompt. Try Pixverse and create today.
They actually listed 97 witnesses. No? So it's also a question if how come they listed 97 witnesses but they only asked for 30 trial dates. Maybe this is an indication that there's really no intention to produce all of those witnesses. But of course, we don't want to preempt what the casualty would want to do. Yeah. So just to be more specific, for the common witnesses, there are 16 named common witnesses, and there are 35 unnamed. What do we mean by unnamed? Because in their pre-trial brief, you would see there that there are a lot of witnesses which are not actually named. For example, 6 or 7 representatives from the Office of the Vice President, 3 representatives from the BIR. So meaning, but on our part, we identified particular officials or officers from the offices, but so common would be 51, both named and unnamed. And also, since on that point, for the exhibits, we have 248 common exhibits, meaning 248 out of the 276 exhibits of the prosecution were basically
Pakilike po.
copied also in the pre-trial or listed also as their evidence.
Pwede po mag-clarify, sir. Mabilis lang po na clarification. Yung 62 trial dates, yun po ang proposal nyo. Tapos yung defense, yun ang proposal ng attorney.
Yeah, that's correct. But as pointed out by Jinky a while ago, in the end, that will depend on the impeachment court's discretion. So those are the dates that we asked for, and we will see in the pre-trial order once it's issued the actual number of days that will be allocated to each court.
Hello po. Good morning, I'm Lance from Newswatch Plus. Kay Attorney Tolosa po, no? Sir, earlier you mentioned po that the defense during the pretrial conference raised a concern on the threshold for conviction. Tama po ba? Can you just elaborate or kung ano po yung pwede niyong ibahagi sa amin? Ano po ba yung naging issue ng defense doon sa threshold for conviction? And for the prosecution team, ano po yung buong posisyon ng prosecution? Should it be lowered now to 15? Kasi as I remember yung sabi ni Congressman Chinky last time, for her personal opinion, it should be lowered to 15 dahil 22 yung votes, 22 yung nasa coercive powers. Pero yung position po ng prosecution, ano po yung position natin?
First, though, at the start of the pre-trial conference, there was an attempt from the defense to pose this issue as something that should be tackled before we could proceed with the pre-trial conference itself. As I mentioned a while ago, that was quickly shut down by Congressman Wistro by pointing out that's not a matter that will be decided by the first court, and it should not be used to delay the pre-trial conference. As to our position, that this is, as I hope you would understand, since it's possible that this is an issue that may come up during the proceedings, it would not be proper for us to talk about it at this point. But what I can say is that the intention of the prosecution is to make sure that we'll be able to establish a compelling case backed by overwhelming evidence, such that regardless of how this two-thirds requirement will be interpreted, we'll be able to secure it.
Another question lang po. Everything will come out naman po on the pre-trial order, but are you allowed to share right now kung ano po yung at least preferred na prosecution na order of presentation?
That's being finalized, as I mentioned. We will file that submission within the day.
Last question na lang po on my end. Since we're, I think, 2 weeks away from the trial, how are the preparations going for the prosecution panel? Alam ko po, nagkakaroon kayo ng iba't ibang paghahanda, ng mga trials kayo, pero ano na po yung level ng kahandaan ng prosecution ngayon?
Let's ask this question to Conchel.
Handa naman po ang mga prosecutor para sa trial. At alam namin na malaking trabaho yan, malaking hamon para sa amin. And we are doing everything we can to ensure our readiness for July 6th.
Good morning po, Process, and to the spokesperson. I'm Earl Tobias po from IBC News 13. First, Attorney Tolosa, sir. Hi. Sir, before you mentioned na parang kinabilang ng defense panel yung ilan sa mga testigo ninyo, a lot of concerns.
Palike po ng ating live.
Said that the pretrial brief of the VP Defense looks like a mirror of the witnesses from the prosecution team. Do you have the same observation po?
Well, objectively speaking, as I mentioned to you a while ago, were you asking about the documentary exhibits?
Yes, sir. And as well as the common witnesses.
Yes, so as I've stated, we have 51 common witnesses. And out of the 276 exhibits of the prosecution, 248 are common. So, just to stick to the facts, those are the common evidence.
Do you deem it sufficient where the VP Defense got able to explain on their brief why such the same mirroring occurred?
Well, I think that's a question for them to answer. But what's curious for us is, as you could see in their answer, most of their defenses are technical, procedural arguments. Right? So, so at the very least, this shows that I guess the question being asked is, if you want to explain, for example, the source of the subject and explain wealth, then you'll be expected to present your own evidence.
because wala pong official na copy na nakarating sa media of the pre-trial brief because it's protected na po. But of course, some of its pages we've already seen, one of which is Ramil Madriaga, the defense team. Also, we saw a passage saying Ramil Madriaga for this purpose, and it's also just the mirror of the prosecution team's pre-trial. Would you confirm, sir?
Maybe it would be better if we wait for the pre-trial order. So you will see the word official witnesses listed by both parties.
Last question from my end po. Sir, from this point forward, and for Prosecutor G.P. Luis po, do we see any room of delaying the process pa po? Any attempt to drag the process para lang po hindi magpanguna dumiretso sa trial?
Even if there will be attempts, the prosecution will remain firm in making sure that the trial will start on July 6, 2026, as previously scheduled by the Senate.
Good morning, Bob, Jonathan, and GMA News. Balikan ko lang.
Find your inner anthem, write another stanza. If you're on the dance floor, go ahead, lift your hands. Sing it with the band, the sun don't shine.
Prosecutors are struggling to keep up. Can you clarify that part?
We are not struggling. We are very much prepared. But as I have said, it has been our position to have this pre-trial conference in an expeditious manner. So regardless of the manifestations that were raised by the defense, including counter stipulations, we maintained our position that cannot be resolved by the clerk of court, and therefore we should proceed immediately to the agenda of the pre-trial conference. Our refusal to comment to the manifestations of the defense doesn't mean that we are not prepared. We simply maintained our position that those issues are not proper for PPC, and therefore we must confine to the agenda of the pre-trial conference.
Okay, we can entertain one more question if you have. Okay, Raymond.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Raymond Labas from these earnings. On the part of the Senate, concerned ba yung lumabas na report recently na yung Senate, apart from Senate President Sherwin Gatchel, balak nila na mag-elect pa ng ibang possible impeachment presiding officer. The name of Senator Cheese was floated. Concerned ba ito sa process?
For us, we are aware that this is a constitutional duty. This is not a question of who is the presiding officer. So regardless of whether it is SP Win Gatchalian or Senator Win Escudero, Senator Cheese Escudero, who will be presiding the impeachment trial, the position is expressing utmost faith and confidence to the impeachment court.
One last question.
Julia Bernard po from the ETV News. We can remember po na sinabi po ni Kong Luis Ro that ideally 11 din po ang maging public prosecutors. Ngayon po pinakilala po natin si Attorney so does this mean the private prosecutors are complete?
It will be more than 11. We're still finalizing the second batch of private prosecutors who will be entering their appearance as well to the impeachment court, but definitely it will be more than 11. Well, maybe you can consider Attorney J as the 11, but definitely there will be more. And we hope to introduce them within the week as well.
Okay, one last question.
Thank you po. Important lang po because na-mention na rin po earlier days, ma'am and attorney, na the defense camp, pinatatanggal po nila lahat ng mga ebidensya and attachments, annexes na wala po sa original impeachment complaint. Ano pong nangyari doon sa pre-trial, and since meron pong comment na isasubmit today, narindigan po ba ang BP Defense Camp na dapat hindi isama yung mga wala sa original impeachment complaint, and would the prosecutor yield to that po?
we maintain the position that even evidence which were not attached to the impeachment complaint can validly be presented before the impeachment court. As a matter of fact, that is the reason when the Justice Committee of the House of Representatives was granted the compulsory process of issuing subpoena to Zesteco and subpoena ad testificandum. It would be highly inconceivable if the evidence gathered in the exercise of this compulsory process will not be considered by the Justice Committee and even by the House of Representatives. Same is true with respect to the impeachment trial. It is clear in the Senate rules that the impeachment court has compulsory power to compel the production of documents and to compel the attendance of witnesses.